Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of The Passive Life, part of the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. Again, I'm your host, Zach Zimmer. You can find me at realzachzimmer.com. And yeah, here to guide you on this journey of accumulating assets to live the passive life. Today, probably gonna be a shorter episode. Just give you an idea of what is the passive life. What is this life that I'm living? So, because maybe you're questioning, oh, what's this guy really do? Why do I want to listen to him? You've heard episode 1, my background. You heard 2, a little bit more, but what do I really do? So, yeah, that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. We won't get into a lot of the tactics and things. We'll talk about my average day and the KPIs that I have and look at, the systems I do, the reading I do, and you'll kind of see like, oh, okay, maybe you like what I'm doing. But again, the key of the passive life is it's whatever you want it to be. The perk of passive income, of being financially independent isn't necessarily to sit around all day. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you don't want to travel. Maybe you want to volunteer and go work in an animal shelter or run a nonprofit. So that's the key. So if you don't like my life, that's fine, right? Lots of people probably don't. But it could be whatever you want your life to be. But I'll just give you a glimpse of mine. So after I was laid off and was successfully unemployed in 2019, I didn't know what to do. I still was waking up at 4:30, which I had been doing for the last 12 years. And so those are some of the things I talked about in that first episode, if you were on it. OCD, right? I have OCD in a lot of different aspects. And, I turned that around and said, well, pretty much anybody you know of who is successful in any aspect of their lives is obsessed with something. Just of them because they've obsessed with the right things, right? They're not obsessed with alcohol or drugs. They're obsessed with finances or helping others, or they're obsessed with their faith, or they're obsessed with their family, and they run a company like Dad's Edge or Front Row Dads, two great podcasts and groups that I love. But there's nothing wrong with having OCD if you steer it the right ways. And yeah, so I have a lot of OCD tendencies. And when I retired or was laid off in 2019, I still had them, right? I still was waking up at 4:30, ready to go to the gym, ready to work out, ready to read, ready to do my podcast listening and reading, and then get ready for being at work at 7:30. But I didn't have to anymore. So it was kind of tricky. What do I do from 4:30 to 7? Because I guess on the other hand, I stopped going to bed at 9 or 9:30, and I started what I tell folks is I found the end of Netflix. And there's an interesting movie there. The big joke was Velocipaster is actually a movie that was on Netflix about a preacher who got bit by a velociraptor and then turned into a ninja. And, ridiculous, crazy story. But it was a joke that I said, hey, told my buddies I found the end of Netflix. But yeah, I wasn't the most effective with my time because I was like, all right, I'm just going to do whatever I want. I've been so busy for so many years of leading engineering departments. At one point, I had 17 engineers and 7 plants around the country. And while I'm doing that, I own 40, 50 rentals. And so I've got an eviction going on. I've got 2 new acquisitions. I've got a vacancy. I've got a fire in a house. I've got all these things going on. And so my calendar was packed. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I missed many family things, but yeah, I certainly didn't have the focus on family and friends and experiences because I didn't have the time. So when I finally got my time back in 2019, I went way the other direction and did not want to commit to anything. Um, I just remember, and I've gotten a little better at it now, but still, I'll have people want to schedule time with me, and I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to put anything on the calendar. you can give me your number, and I'll give you a call sometime when I'm driving, sometime when I'm in the hot tub or when I'm on the elliptical. When I have time, free hands to talk. I just have become very, very protective of my Gmail calendar or my Yahoo calendar. And so, okay, so what did I start doing when I retired? Um, I started doing a lot more reading. Like I said, I get up now, so I've been able to shift my sleeping till about 6:30 a.m. And that's when my wife gets up. The alarms are going off. The kids are getting ready, so I'm up in the morning. And yeah, I jump kind of right into the family things going on. I'm going through emails here in my office, and I know the most effective people will say you should get up and have that quiet time before then. It's not something I have fit into my life as much now because of the time and the kids. It's more after they've gone off that I do some of that more podcasting reflective time. So no, I don't get up awful early anymore. I'm get up at 6:30, getting kids ready, breakfast, helping. My wife's doing most of that, and I'm kind of going through the emails of the night. I get a lot of different periodicals, a lot of financial emails and different blogs that come through. And then, yeah, clearing that up, putting the kids on the bus at 8 o'clock. And then I'm getting in the hot tub. That's my warm up through the winter season. And I make a lot of phone calls when I'm in there. So that's when I'm catching up with either if there's things going on in any of my properties, talking to the contractor, more talking to friends, what's going on with, had a partnership that had 24 units, multi-units and alliance that we were turning around to flip. And I had a boots on the ground partner. So talking with him, talking with any of my other friends on our coaching group and on this podcast, planning stuff for the podcast. And then listening to my own podcasts. I have pivoted away. I had years and years of listening to real estate and finance podcasts. And some of that started with like the Robert Kiyosaki and the Bigger Pockets. Then honestly, I kind of pivoted away from Robert Kiyosaki. It was too macroeconomic, too high level. I didn't think there was much actionable or real nuggets of learning in there. I call a lot of that mental masturbation, right? I mean, you're going to think about it. Maybe it upsets you listening to what's going on in the news or what Congress is doing. But unless you're a Pulte home builder building thousands of homes at once, that macro stuff has little to no effect on what you're doing in your bubble, building your business. So I don't, pay any attention to it. Very, very little. So I've pivoted now more to life podcasts. So Front Row Dads and Dad's Edge are two great ones that I like. I follow a handful of finance, real estate, and I'll look at what the episode is. But honestly, like so much of that stuff in my life is kind of set up on autopilot that I'm not spending a lot of time listening to those. And so after that's done, then I hit the gym every day. That's another OCD thing that's probably never going to leave me. And that's a rotate through of different things from cardio and weights and yoga. And then I'm continuing to listen to the podcasts or have phone calls. And then after that, it's a big, giant, healthy shake that I make that pretty much goes throughout the day. And different, a lunch appointment here too, lunch meetings with different folks in the, whether it's just purely social friends of mine or whether it's a realtor or a contractor or a partner that I'm meeting with to talk through. That's assuming it's winter. If it's a summer, then it's golf. It's my favorite new hobby that seems to be a great social networking with also passive investors and business owners. And so it's lots of golf through the season, 2 or 3 weekdays. I try to do all this stuff weekdays. It's funny. Once you have your time back, you don't want to go anywhere on the weekends because that's when everyone else is out, right? You want to go out when everyone else is working. So that's when I go golfing and we go out and do things and we go to the amusement parks. go when no one else can be there, and take advantage of much less traffic and waits and all the craziness of the people. So yeah, I love to take the girls to Cedar Point. That's a local park here, so a big amusement park with tons of coasters. So we'll go there a couple times, a couple times a month through the weekdays because I have that freedom, right? You have the freedom to not have to only go to Disney and to Cedar Point and to all these parks on weekends and holidays, right? You don't have to wait in the hours and hours of lines like all the rest of the folks. You can go because you have free time. You have a passive life. So I love that stuff. I love taking my girls up there and doing all that, letting them run around and ride all the coasters. And I normally stop after about three or four. It's about as much as my stomach can handle, and then just watch them have a blast. So between family, friends, I love traveling. So I am trying to get on a plane and take a trip every 2 to 3 weeks. I bought a place in Florida this past year. We'll probably take an episode and talk about that. That was probably my first true off market acquisition. Where I solicited direct to seller. So I was pretty happy about that. But it's not cash flow. It's not a way to build a passive life. It is more the vacation lifestyle. But so through the winter, yeah, I like to be going down there, and I try to combine that with networking. I try to invite, I'm taking down different real estate buddies, taking down financial advisors that I deal with on the private equity side, partnerships. I'm just trying to take people down there to that area. I'm connected with a couple private equity groups that I invest with down there in the St. Pete, Tampa. So networking, spending time with them and other business owners. So making it more of, it's both social and business, right? So it's a deduction. So besides that, masterminds. I try to do, call it 2, 3 a year. Dustin had a great one, and that's part of why I'm here in front of you now. Is he's convinced me to come out of my introverted doer shell, of just doing these things and get out and talk to folks and try to help and coach and influence and create a following. And how I'm looking at it almost a little selfishly is I want a network of people like that I can go hang with, right? I want people that I have connected and influenced and help all around the country and world, that I can be like, hey, I'm planning a Costa Rica trip in April with some other investors, and yeah, who can I jump in with? Who's down there that's been listening to me, that knows me, that can hook us up with a boat and we can go out on the water. So, I'd love to build this network around the country and world of folks that appreciate what I've been saying and what I'm teaching. And so between those trips and the conferences, certainly a Rubicon where especially if you are a 0 to 10 properties, like there's so much learning. It's such a fire hose there. And even when I went year one, right, and I have done as much or more in real estate as the speakers there, I still learn things, right? Just because they haven't done more in real estate than I have doesn't mean they don't know things that I don't know, right? I mean, there was so much there, and the connections I made, that even though I didn't learn something tactically that I went and made money with, I made great connections that brought me back year two, got me closer relationship to Dustin and his whole circle, and has created friendships that might lead into partnerships. But it's at least led to me to helping master passive income and helping me get a footprint to launch to expand my reach. And so masterminds, conferences, getting out, seeing new places with my wife. We pick a new destination each year around the country. And do like a 3 night, trying to experience just all sorts of different cities and cross things off our list domestically, as well as take a trip out of the country each year, normally with the kids, for them to get to experience those places. So, always focusing on seeing something different, a new experience, a new challenge, right? I don't like to just go sit in a resort. I want to be challenged on these trips and go whitewater rafting through the Royal Gorge in Colorado, and then zip lining across it as well, to go e-biking through parks. And so I like active trips. I like them to have some learning if they can, or else just a lot of great family time and time with my wife. And then, as well as when I'm home, um, it's a lot of just reading. There's not a lot to do in the properties. That's why it's the passive life. So, whether you are getting a property manager because you are not in an area where you can effectively obtain cash flow from rentals, or they are in your backyard, doing them right. I like to do a rent with purchase option or a rent to own. And if you're going to look into that, don't do it predatory. There are people that do rent to own very predatory, and it's because they want to churn down payments. I don't care about down payments. My down payments are relatively low versus what a lot of these are, but I want an owner occupant mentality. That's the only reason I'm doing rent to own. And if you buy it in a year, great. If you're there 10 years later, I don't care. My objective from a profit perspective is I don't have to sell the house. I don't care about selling the house. If you can buy it, great. You have all the rights and you're locked in there for as long as you're making payments. But I'm not pivoting you out. If you come, there is no end of a contract. You're there until you either stop paying, and yes, you can get evicted, or you choose to leave or buy it. But that is a thing, that's an angle that I have really liked for true passivity, to not get phone calls about they clogged their toilet or they blew the furnace motor because they never changed the filter. I can still get some of those messages. And that's another tactic about passive life, is looking for people in the trades to put into your houses so that you have direct influence over. My HVAC guys in one of my houses, I have a plumber in one of the houses, and then I've got multiple handymen, because that gets bonus points on my applications. If you are handy and I know, okay, I've got a tenant having a problem, they don't know anyone. No, it's not on me to go fix it. They're in a rent to own. They're responsible for these little things, but at least I can refer them someone who I know is not going to screw my tenant. Nobody wins except the HVAC company if my tenant spends $2,500 on a new furnace, versus my tenant lets me know I get a brand new furnace for $800 and I pay my tenant $300. So I'm $1,100 to put a new furnace in their home. That's a win for everybody, right? I didn't make a dollar. My guy made a little bit for his time, and the tenant saved $1,200 versus calling an HVAC company. So if you're going to do rent to own, do it the right way. Do not take advantage of these folks, because the truth is, I don't want to say once a tenant, always a tenant. I have had many folks get their loans, but the odds, they don't help themselves. That's what it comes down to. And you can try to, I always try to suggest Dave Ramsey, to help them get that mindset right. But just do it right, and you will get better passivity with these tenants. And maybe they'll be there for 10, 15 years in the same house, and they're repairing it, right? They're replacing the wax ring on the toilet, and they're doing all these things. They're snaking the drains when I've had macaroni put down a sink drain, right? They're doing all that. So very little work. I spend my time really in apartments.com is the portal I use for rent collection. And, I'll look at that each morning, and it'll remind me, okay, of the tenants that have texted me or are constantly having problems. When it comes to late fee management, I do give lots of leniency related to what I was talking about with not being predatory and rent to own. And you're going to hear different stories on this. No, you can't be lenient. You got to serve the 3-day, you evict them, you got to move along. Not saying that's wrong. It would probably take maybe it would take a little bit off of me, but then I'm also going to have more turnover if I would do that. And I know that takes a lot of me, since I still deal with my turns. When I get a turnover, I want to meet the people. So I'm the one scheduling do kind of an open house style and schedule people every 10 minutes. But I've not let that go. And I know that's a mental block, because it's not a business then, really. It's still me. But I've wanted to meet these folks because I'm probably going to be dealing with you for 2, 3, 4, 8 years or more. So I've wanted to meet them, understand their character, collect their application, and get a feel for the folks. So So that's why, yeah, I mean, if I evicted, I wouldn't be chasing payments, but I'd be dealing with turns. And that's the thing that I spend the most time on, even though it's so minuscule. Maybe it's 6, 8 turns a year, and I spend, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours in total. So you're still not talking much time at all. But I've wanted to just keep control of that. So, yeah, I spend time in apartments and just kind of following up with folks. But that also is another big additional revenue stream. I believe in 2022, I collected around $16,000 in late fees. I have not summed it up yet for 2023. It's probably less, but it's still going to be a big, probably $10,000 or more in late fees. And I didn't have any evictions last year. So no evictions. I never kicked anybody out of their house. I had people leave, of course, but I never was the reason someone did not have a home. And I collected more late fees because of working with those folks. So to me, that's a win-win, right? I collected more money. You got to stay in your home. So I really encourage everybody to see if that fits their model. If you're using a third-party property manager, then yeah, I mean, they're going to manage things their way, which is very likely a fixed and rigid 3-day notice, and then they're out. So if you're managing them yourself, I love apartments.com. It used to be, well, Cozy was the website everyone used, and then Apartments bought them. But it's very easy to see and track everything. Very easy to add a bill or give a credit. And it's quick to run through everybody. You can sort by who hasn't paid, and you can keep a track of things all through there. So that's really the only system I use for any type of work. I track all my other private stuff in just Excel. I love to track things that way, and we are going to cover some KPIs here in a minute. But yeah, really, it's just Excel and Apartments are really the only two systems I use, and that's kind of how I track everything. But yeah, so right now I'm going to pull up what I look at the majority of the time. So for those of you that are just on the podcast, I'm sorry. For those of you watching the video, you'll be able to see some things. But in terms of like my main KPI, what you're looking at here is a breakdown of kind of what my monthly net income is. And my objective was to add more color, right? Diversify, add more and more colors to my monthly net income plus the net worth tracker. And, yep, you can see this drop here, and there will be a whole episode on that of what happened and why my income and my net worth dropped so much that year. That was last year, 2023. And you see a similar rise here in net worth, right? A great, steadily increasing even without a job. And then boom, the drop from some challenging losses. So, and yeah, I mean, these are my main KPIs, right? The cap rate of the portfolio, what the collection rate has been, monthly net income just on the rental portfolio. So yeah, I mean, those are really my only key KPIs that I look at, in terms of collection rate. My monthly net income is probably my biggest focus, and making sure to expand on those colors. Those are really my only goals and strategies. I would like to continue to diversify those and obviously keep increasing them. So yeah, that's what I like to do. That's what I spend my time doing. There's the data. I probably spend working directly on the rentals. I mean, on average, probably 2 to 3 hours a week. Yeah, it could be a little more if I got to show a turnover, but generally it's just some collections type things, processing bills and paperwork and some mail. I don't really go out and see properties. If a property does come up that's interesting to me, I'll have an agent go look at it first, before I'll spend the time to put an offer. And generally from their view is where I just put an offer unseen, just going off of their view of it. And then, yeah, if we get it under contract or we're getting close to contract, that's when I'll go see it. Again, protective of that time. I don't want to spend my time going out and running around looking at properties until I know it's possibly something that could fit. Now, if somehow I have an off-market lead that's different, then I need to connect right with the seller. So a couple hours a week on real estate, a couple hours a week on the passive side, and we'll have an episode directly on, or not just the passive, but on the private side, an episode directly on private equity and limited partnerships and lending. And then, probably double that time is spent reading. That's probably the biggest thing I'm doing in terms of work is just lots of reading, whether it's books, but mostly articles, studying things on the web, and going through stuff like there, listening to podcasts. So I'm doing more of that than I'm actually doing of any work. And then lots of fun, golfing and shooting and traveling and family and friends and yeah, so that's the key. That's my passive life, right? So, what would your passive life look like? And then defining, what the costs are to get you there. I've talked about this a little bit in the last one. My passive life is not a Rolls Royce here and a Ferrari in Florida. It is nice places, and it is very nice cars and very nice vacations, but it is not crazy expensive, affluent, staying at the Ritz's. The additional or risk of time that would be required to get me to justify spending on those things it's been too risky. I'm too protective of my time to try to do things that would get me to a level where I wouldn't care about spending that kind of money on those types of activities. I love our lifestyle now, and maybe it could expand, but probably not nothing more drastic than the great life that we have. But yeah, so that's probably about it for today. Thank you for staying with me, understanding a little bit about more what I do in my passive life. And keep up with it. We're going to be going through a handful more like this, solos, talking through tips, tactics, and lifestyle and mindset. And then we'll be getting to some commentary and bringing in a bunch of my advanced and even bigger investor friends. You'll hear how everybody's doing it and what we're working on. So thanks again. My name is Zach Zimmer. You can see more at realzachzimmer.com, as well as part of the Master Passive Income Podcast Network. Thanks.